Join me now, someone who understands these issues, domestic, international, all of them better than almost anyone. Susan Rice served as National Security Advisor to President Obama, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and most recently as the Director of President Biden's Domestic Policy Council. Susan, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Great to be with you, Jen.
I just wanted to start by asking you, because I think there's so much incoming news at all moments, and you are the perfect person who understands so much of it that we're all trying to digest. And this morning, President Zelensky gave a press conference. He was asked a very pointed question, a hypothetical one, from a reporter, where he said in response that he'd be willing to step down in exchange for a lasting peace in Ukraine and NATO membership. Now, I heard that and talked to some reporters on the ground, and it felt to me like something any good leader worth their salt would say. But a lot of people are reading into it, so I wanted to get a sense from you on how you heard his comments.
Jen, I heard it just the way you did. There's nothing remarkable in normal times about a democratically elected leader like Zelensky putting his country before himself, saying he will do what is best for the interests of Ukraine. It's only remarkable because we're living in a context here where it's hard to imagine that the President of the United States would put the country ahead of himself, given how he did everything he possibly could to resist leaving office after he lost in 2020 and so much more. So I don't consider what Zelensky said to be anything earth-shattering. He was simply saying that the interests of Ukraine come before my personal interests.
That is very helpful for people to hear. I think there's a lot of analysis out there, and you of all people know how to read these things. I just started the show by talking a bit about some unbelievable comments that Trump has made, where he has essentially attacked Zelensky and in many ways backed Putin a bit in how he's handled the last couple of weeks. I mean, his attack against Zelensky include calling him a dictator. He suggested maybe he started the war. All of these things are ludicrous. But you've been in these rooms. How are you digesting it? And how do you think the world is digesting what Trump is saying?
Well, not only are Trump's comments ludicrous, they're extremely dangerous. And they portend, I think, a very ominous shift in the United States approach to the world. Donald Trump is aligning himself very explicitly with Vladimir Putin, a dictator, as you pointed out in your intro, and also, Jen, with Xi Jinping of China, because understand that Putin and Xi, along with North Korea and Iran, are an axis of authoritarians. They work together. They are, in effect, allies. And Donald Trump is doing a number of things that benefit only Xi and Putin. For example, calling into question our commitment to the security of our Western allies in NATO, throwing Ukraine under the bus, starting an unprecedented conflict even in terms of tensions that could ratchet up to extreme levels with our closest partner and ally and neighbor, Canada, threatening to invade a NATO ally, Denmark, to capture Greenland, pulling USAID off the field globally, suddenly, something that Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping are dancing about in their respective capitals, starting trade wars with our closest allies. All of these things only benefit, when you distill it all, Putin and Xi. And what message does it send to Xi Jinping when Donald Trump says to Ukraine that they are the aggressor, they who are in fact the victims of an invasion, are somehow the ones who started the war, and that the price for ending the war ought to be that Ukraine gives up territory, has no security guarantees, and, oh, by the way, give over $500 billion to Donald Trump in the United States for nothing in return. If I'm Xi Jinping, I'm looking at that going, great, now's my time to invade Taiwan. And so this is really, really a dangerous realignment of U.S. national interests. And it's just shocking to me that Republicans in Congress who know better are seemingly taking a pass as all this seems to be transpiring.
It is an unbelievable part of the story. And I just want to double tap on something you just said that people may not realize, which is that people in other capitals read what is said in this country and they digest it. And that's such an important part for people to understand. Let me ask you about something happening here domestically. You have overseen so many large teams of government employees on the national security side, also on the domestic side. And just last night, there was this email that went out from the Doge team, from Elon Musk's team, essentially, that basically asked employees to summarize their work over the last week. And it coincided with a tweet from Elon Musk suggesting employees who didn't respond would be terminated. Now, some of these agencies included the FBI, the Department of Defense. I mean, there were a range of agencies on here. Some agencies, employees were telling them not to respond. But how alarming is this? I mean, there are many ways. It's alarming from a national security perspective, asking people to do this. But what is your reaction to hearing about that?
It's extraordinary. I mean, what Trump is doing, using Elon Musk as his tool, is literally dismantling the United States federal government. And it's not just the people, as horrific as that is, laying off talented, experienced public servants who do nothing but serve the American people at very low salaries compared to what they could get in the private sector. But it's halting the programs and the benefits that Americans rely on across the political spectrum. You know, it's extraordinary what is happening, and it is going to hurt not just the federal employees, 2 million of them, by the way, the vast majority of whom don't live in the Washington, D.C. area, but it is going to hurt average, everyday Americans who rely on everything from the opportunity to call the Veterans Administration and get the kinds of help they need, and now they can't get their phone calls answered, to the elderly person who relies on Meals on Wheels, to the person who had, under Joe Biden, insulin cut down to no more than $35 a month and now see their insulin prices spiking. I mean, there are all kinds of ways in which the actions and the policies, in addition to the cuts of federal workers that this administration is doing, is already starting to hurt Americans in the places that matter most to them. Their pocketbooks, their health, their small businesses. This is extraordinary. Just to give an example that maybe people don't understand, when you slash and end all USAID programs, you're not just starving and killing innocent people overseas. You are harming American farmers. You are harming American workers who depend on those resources. It's American farmers whose products are bought by AID and sent to help feed hungry people around the world. Now they're not getting their money, and their produce is rotting at the ports. This is an extraordinary, very reckless thing that this administration is doing, and it is not going to end well for the American people. And I don't think it's going to end well for Donald Trump.
Susan Rice, I know how many things you know because I've sat in a lot of meetings with you, but I just so appreciate you coming and talking about such a wide range of issues. Thank you so much for taking the time.